She was beautiful, successful, and living a life millions could only dream of. But when her ex-boyfriend showed up during a live stream, what should have been an ordinary night turned into a nightmare broadcasted to the world. Viewers watched in real time as her life came to a chilling end. Why does love sometimes lead to such devastating consequences? How does jealousy and betrayal turn into an act so unthinkable that the world watches in horror? Before we dive into this shocking case, like this video and subscribe to Real True Crime Stories for more gripping tales of love, betrayal, and tragedy. Sophia Brooks, a 28-year-old Instagram influencer, had become one of the most talked about personalities in the digital world. By the summer of 2021, she had amassed a staggering 2.5 million followers who admired her curated posts of luxury trips, beauty tutorials, and the flawless moments of her life. From designer handbags to tropical vacations, her feed radiated the kind of lifestyle that many aspired to. Sophia had built a brand that perfectly blended glamour with relatability, making her a star among influencers. A single mother, Sophia often shared intimate glimpses into her life with her 4-year-old son, Landon, born in 2017. In posts showcasing their mother-son bond, she portrayed herself as a dedicated mother, raising Landon while also juggling her career ambitions. Followers admired her strength, resilience, and ability to thrive both as a mother and an entrepreneur. But beneath the picture-perfect posts, a darker story was beginning to unfold. Tyrell Johnson, 30, was once a high school football star, revered in their small town for his athletic prowess. But by 2021, Tyrell's life had taken a different turn. After an injury cut short his athletic career, he found himself working in a warehouse, a far cry from the fame he had once enjoyed. Tyrell and Sophia had been in an on-and-off relationship for 5 years, during which they had a son, Landon, in 2017. While their relationship was full of passion, it was equally marked by arguments, jealousy, and financial struggles. Tyrell often felt overshadowed by Sophia's rising success and her social media fame. His lack of financial stability and the pressures of their strained relationship weighed heavily on him. Their love, once full of promise, began to feel like a constant tug-of-war between his insecurities and her growing independence. Despite the ups and downs, they always tried to make it work for the sake of their son. But by mid-2021, things had reached a breaking point. In the spring of 2021, everything changed for Sophia when she met Gregory Langston, a 54-year-old billionaire CEO of a cosmetics empire. Gregory, wealthy and influential, was a stark contrast to Tyrell's modest lifestyle. The two met at an exclusive networking event in Los Angeles, where Sophia had been invited as a prominent influencer in the beauty space. Their connection was immediate and soon, Gregory became more than just a business partner, he became Sophia's new love interest. As Gregory's presence in her life grew stronger, Sophia began to distance herself from Tyrell. She posted pictures of their dates, gifts, and lavish vacations, showing off her new life with Gregory. The contrast between Gregory's wealth and Tyrell's financial struggles didn't go unnoticed, and tensions began to rise. Tyrell, already battling feelings of inadequacy, was devastated by Sophia's shift in attention. Sophia's followers were quick to notice the change in her relationship status. Many of them celebrated her glow-up, praising her for stepping up in the world and securing financial stability for herself and Landon. Sophia's new relationship with Gregory becomes public when she posts a photo of them vacationing in Bora Bora. Posts with Gregory were met with admiration and compliments, and fans cheered her on as she moved forward in life. For Sophia, this new chapter seemed like a dream come true. However, not everyone was supportive. Critics, particularly those from Tyrell's side, began to label her as a gold digger, accusing her of leaving her good-for-nothing baby daddy for a richer man. The media quickly latched onto the story, fueling the narrative of Sophia's rise through Gregory's wealth. This negative attention only deepened the resentment Tyrell felt. He began to spiral, consumed by jealousy and anger over Sophia's new relationship and the public's perception of her. By the fall of 2021, Sophia's life was at a crossroads. She had found success, financial security, and a new partner in Gregory, but the growing tension with Tyrell was reaching a boiling point. Unbeknownst to her followers, the foundation of her seemingly perfect life was on the verge of collapse. Tyrell's jealousy had festered for months, turning into an obsession that gnawed at his insides. After Sophia ended their 5-year relationship to pursue her newfound romance with Gregory Langston, Tyrell couldn't bear the idea of another man, especially one with such wealth and influence, taking his place in their son's life. The thought of Gregory, the billionaire CEO, becoming a father figure to Landon, the child he had once dreamed of raising, consumed him with fury. Every time he scrolled through Sophia's Instagram feed, he felt his heart tighten. The pictures of luxurious vacations, expensive gifts, and intimate moments with Gregory felt like a personal slap in the face. To Tyrell, it was as if Sophia was flaunting her success just to rub his failure in his face. It was a humiliation that gnawed at him, turning his once proud image of himself into something unrecognizable. By late 2021, Tyrell's bitterness had transformed into rage. He had always been the type of man to take pride in his ability to provide for his family, but the reality of Sophia's new life with Gregory stripped him of any sense of pride he once had. He felt emasculated, abandoned, and replaced. The resentment only deepened each time he saw Sophia's posts, particularly the ones of Gregory and Landon, both of them smiling with their arms around each other, looking like a perfect family. The more he saw it, the more he grew consumed with the idea that his family was slipping away, both his son and the woman he had once loved. Despite his growing bitterness, Tyrell wasn't completely willing to let go. He began reaching out to Sophia in the hopes of rekindling their relationship, but his attempts were met with rejection. At first, he sent text messages, calling her names and accusing her of abandoning him for money. When those went unanswered, he showed up at her apartment unannounced, standing outside her door, pounding on it with fists that shook in anger. Sophia was afraid, and her response was to file for a restraining order after an incident outside a restaurant in early December 2021. Tyrell had spotted her there with Gregory, their arms intertwined, laughing over a glass of wine. Seeing the two of them together sent Tyrell into a fit of rage. He stormed up to them, shouting accusations, his face red with anger. He demanded Sophia choose between him and Gregory. Security had to escort him out, and it was clear that their relationship was truly over. But Tyrell wasn't finished. As 2021 came to a close, his fixation on Sophia and her new life began to take on an even darker turn. On December 22, Tyrell discovered Sophia's announcement of a celebratory livestream she was planning to host the following day. It was to be a promotion for a new partnership with Gregory's cosmetics company, marking a significant milestone in her career. The live stream would be an opportunity for her to showcase the brand, flaunt her success, and bask in the attention of her millions of followers. To Tyrell, the timing couldn't have been worse. The thought of Sophia, his ex, celebrating with Gregory, broadcasting her new life to the world, felt like the final insult. The live stream was more than just a career achievement for her, it felt like a public display of everything he had lost. Tyrell, in a fog of jealousy and rage, saw the live stream as an opportunity to confront her. In his mind, this would be his moment to reclaim his dignity, to make sure the world knew he was still in control of his own narrative. The more he thought about it, the more it consumed him. His anger was matched by a dangerous recklessness. The alcohol he had been drinking earlier in the evening began to take its toll, numbing his senses. He had also taken drugs to fuel his adrenaline, hoping it would give him the courage to do what he had been planning. A sense of entitlement surged within him. He had been wronged, and he was going to make Sophia see that. This was his chance to confront her, to make sure she knew she couldn't just move on without consequences. As the live stream grew closer, Tyrell's mind was set. He knew what he had to do. Sophia Brooks planned a celebratory live stream from her luxurious penthouse apartment in downtown Los Angeles. The session was meant to thank her followers for their unwavering support and discuss exciting projects she was undertaking, including a rumored skincare line funded by her wealthy boyfriend, Gregory Langston. Sophia prepared for the live stream meticulously. She dressed in a white designer outfit, accessorized with diamond earrings Gregory had gifted her, and set up her apartment's living room with professional lighting and a flattering backdrop. She appeared radiant and confident as she began the session at 7 p.m., drawing over 50,000 viewers in the first 10 minutes. Meanwhile, Tyrell Johnson, her ex-boyfriend and father of her 4-year-old son, was in a very different state of mind. After weeks of obsessing over Sophia's newfound relationship and financial success, Tyrell decided he needed a face-to-face confrontation. He had been drinking heavily and was reportedly high on drugs. Armed with a handgun he had purchased illegally, Tyrell drove to Sophia's apartment. The first sound that interrupted the calm of the live stream was a loud, frantic banging on the front door. It was rapid, insistent, as if someone was trying to force their way in. Sophia's face froze. For a brief moment, she hesitated, her cheerful expression faltering. She quickly glanced off camera, looking toward the door as the banging continued. The noise was enough to make her heart race, her stomach drop. For a split second, she considered ignoring it, but the persistent thudding only grew louder. Sophia's hands trembled slightly as she looked back at the camera, trying to keep her composure for her audience. The cheerful tone that had been so present in her voice moments before was now replaced with a note of concern. "Hold on, I'll be right back, guys," she said, trying to reassure her fans, but her voice lacked the usual confidence. She set her microphone down and walked toward the door, her heart pounding in her chest as she peered through the peephole, instantly recognizing the angry figure standing on the other side. It was Tyrell. The door suddenly burst open with a violent force, sending Sophia stumbling back. Tyrell stormed into the apartment, his eyes wild with fury. His face was flushed, his jaw clenched, and his breathing was heavy, as if he had been running or fighting his way through the anger building inside him. The live stream's camera, still rolling, captured every moment in shocking clarity. Tyrell's voice was loud and shrill as he began shouting at Sophia, his words barely making sense through the frenzy of his rage. "You think you can just leave me for him? You think you can just throw me away like I'm nothing?" he screamed, his hands shaking as he pointed at her. "What about our son, huh? What about Landon? You just replace me with that rich bastard." Sophia's face drained of color as she took a step back. The weight of the situation settled in as she realized Tyrell had come with an intention far darker than she had anticipated. Her eyes darted toward the camera, knowing that her entire audience was now witnessing this violent confrontation in real time. She tried to regain some control, her voice shaky but firm. "Tyrell, please, just calm down," she pleaded, her body tense, trying to avoid further escalation. "This isn't the time for this." But Tyrell was beyond listening. He was beyond reason. His mind, clouded with alcohol and drugs, saw red. "Calm down," he shouted. "You've humiliated me. You think I don't see what you're doing? You think I'm just gonna let you get away with this?" Suddenly, he pulled a gun from behind his back. It was swift, practiced, he had come prepared. The cold steel of the weapon gleamed in the soft light of the apartment. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. "Tyrell, don't," she begged, her voice barely above a whisper. Her heart hammered in her chest as her mind raced, trying to find a way to de-escalate the situation. But it was too late. Tyrell's anger exploded in an instant. With a growl of fury, he raised the gun and fired. The sound of the shot was deafening, echoing in the small apartment. Sophia cried out in pain as the bullet struck her shoulder, sending a searing pain through her body. She staggered back, her hands instinctively clutching at her wound, her vision blurring. Tyrell's eyes were wild, his breath ragged as he aimed again. The second shot rang out, hitting Sophia squarely in the chest. She collapsed to the floor, gasping for air, blood pooling beneath her. The camera, still recording, captured the horror as the life drained from her eyes. In a final, fatal act, Tyrell fired a third shot. This time, it was to her head, point blank, ensuring that no one could save her. The force of the bullet was brutal, and Sophia's body fell limp, her face frozen in a look of disbelief and terror. The chat exploded in chaos. Thousands of viewers flooded the screen with desperate messages, begging for someone to call 911. Call for help. Oh my God, she's dead. What the hell just happened? The screen filled with frantic comments, but no one could intervene. The live stream had become a crime scene. For several agonizing moments, Tyrell stood over Sophia's lifeless body, breathing heavily. He then turned to the camera, which was still recording, and shouted, "This is what happens when you betray someone who loves you." Thousands of viewers watched in disbelief as Tyrell fled the scene. Many immediately called 911, providing Sophia's address, which had been leaked online during her rise to fame. The live stream ended abruptly, the screen cutting to black as Sophia's lifeless body lay on the floor, a haunting image frozen in time for all who had witnessed it. But it didn't take long for the clips to spread like wildfire. In the hours that followed, the footage from the stream was shared across multiple platforms. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, shocking millions of viewers who couldn't believe their eyes. Some were in disbelief, unable to process what had just transpired, while others immediately began sharing their thoughts and theories, calling it everything from a sick prank to a staged drama. But as more and more people watched, it became painfully clear that the murder had been real, the violence horrifying, and the victim, Sophia Brooks, was gone. Police were alerted almost immediately after the footage began circulating online. By 10 p.m., Los Angeles Police Department officers were dispatched to Sophia's penthouse in downtown Los Angeles, where they arrived to find a scene that would haunt them for years to come. When they entered the apartment, the first thing that struck them was the silence, a stark contrast to the chaos that had unfolded just hours before. Sophia's body was discovered on the living room floor, surrounded by pools of blood. The faint scent of gunpowder still lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of the violent outburst that had just taken place. Her white designer outfit was soaked with blood, and her diamond earrings, the gift from Gregory, sparkled eerily against the crimson backdrop. The living room, once an inviting space filled with warm lighting, was now a crime scene, its immaculate decor overshadowed by the brutality of the moment. Evidence of a struggle was clear. The furniture had been displaced in the chaos, with a coffee table flipped over and a decorative vase shattered on the floor. A chair had been pushed aside as if Sophia had tried to escape or shield herself. Police were quick to take note of the gunshot residue and bloody handprints near the door, indications that a violent confrontation had erupted just moments before Sophia's death. It was evident that this wasn't just a random act of violence, it was personal. Authorities immediately began collecting evidence and photographs of the scene. They noted the live stream camera, which was still on, recording the horrific aftermath. The footage would soon become a key piece of evidence in the investigation, showing Tyrell's entrance, his violent outburst, and the fatal moments that had led to Sophia's death. The police took the time to catalog every detail, but it was clear that the murder had been broadcast to an unsuspecting world, and now, that world was demanding justice. Meanwhile, Tyrell had already fled the scene. By 11 p.m., authorities issued a bolo, "Be on the lookout," for Tyrell Johnson, who was now considered the prime suspect in the murder. They used the live stream footage to identify him, as well as eyewitness accounts from neighbors who had reported hearing the gunshots and seeing Tyrell leave the building shortly after the incident. As the night wore on, investigators worked tirelessly to piece together the details of Tyrell's whereabouts. They knew he had a history of volatile behavior, and with the evidence stacking against him, it seemed like only a matter of time before he would be caught. At 3 a.m., the hunt for Tyrell finally came to a head. A tip came in from a local resident in south-central Los Angeles, a neighborhood notorious for its tough streets and close-knit community. Tyrell had been spotted at a friend's house. Law enforcement descended on the location, setting up a perimeter around the modest home where Tyrell had reportedly been hiding out. Officers moved in swiftly, their tactical gear and weapons drawn as they approached the front door. Tyrell had no way out. He was arrested without incident. When he was taken into custody, Tyrell was visibly disheveled, his clothes wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his hands shaking. His disoriented state suggested that the weight of what he had done had yet to fully sink in. Tyrell was placed under arrest for the murder of Sophia Brooks and transported to a nearby police station for questioning. In the days that followed, detectives began their deep dive into Tyrell's background and his relationship with Sophia. They discovered a pattern of jealousy, anger, and emotional instability that had escalated over the past few months. Tyrell's obsession with Sophia's newfound wealth and her relationship with Gregory had led to mounting tensions, and it seemed that the murder had been the tragic result of a man who felt betrayed by the woman he had once loved. The livestream footage would serve as the key to convicting Tyrell. The chilling evidence of him shooting Sophia in cold blood, all while thousands of viewers watched, left little room for defense. Authorities used the clips to build their case, making it clear that Tyrell had not only murdered Sophia but had done so with full knowledge of the consequences, even as he flaunted his crime for the world to see. As Tyrell sat in custody, his life spiraling into chaos, the world continued to reel from the shock of Sophia's death. Social media buzzed with theories and debates over his motives. Some mourned the loss of a woman who had once seemed to have it all, while others questioned how far fame and wealth could push a person. But in the midst of all the speculation, one thing was undeniable: the horrifying events of that night had irrevocably changed the lives of everyone involved. The trial of Tyrell Johnson began in December 2023, drawing nationwide attention. The case had captured the public's interest, in part due to the shocking nature of the crime, but also because of the horrific circumstances under which it had occurred. People across the country followed every detail, from the opening statements to the closing arguments, as the prosecution and defense presented their cases. Prosecutors were adamant that Tyrell had murdered Sophia out of jealousy and resentment. They painted him as a man who couldn't handle the success and independence that Sophia had achieved after their breakup. Tyrell, they argued, was unable to accept that she had moved on, especially with someone who had the wealth and status that he could never provide. In their eyes, Tyrell's feelings of inadequacy had festered over time, ultimately driving him to murder the woman he once loved. The prosecution's case was bolstered by the livestream footage, which captured Tyrell's violent outburst in full. The jurors watched as he barged into Sophia's apartment, armed and intoxicated, and unleashed his rage on her. The graphic nature of the footage was undeniable, and it left little room for defense. The defense, on the other hand, attempted to argue that Tyrell's actions were a result of emotional instability and substance abuse. They claimed that Tyrell was not in control of his actions when he entered Sophia's apartment, citing his state of intoxication and the stress he had been under. His attorneys argued that while his actions were tragic, they were not premeditated, and that he had not intended to kill Sophia. Instead, they presented a case that framed Tyrell as a man whose mental health had deteriorated in the face of his broken relationship and struggles with addiction. For 6 weeks, the courtroom was filled with intense testimony, expert witnesses, and emotional moments. Sophia's family members took the stand, sharing their grief and the impact of her death on their lives. Her mother, in particular, broke down as she spoke of the loss of her daughter, a woman who had worked so hard to provide a better life for herself and her son. The family's pain was palpable, and their words left a lasting impression on the jury. Finally, after days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. On February 14, 2024, Tyrell Johnson was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read, the weight of the decision settling heavily on everyone present. Tyrell, who had sat stoically throughout much of the trial, broke down in tears as he heard the verdict. His shoulders shook with sobs as he was led away in handcuffs. In his emotional statement, Tyrell apologized to Sophia's family, saying, "I'm so sorry for what I've done. I never meant for things to go this far." His words were met with a mixture of disbelief and anger from those who had witnessed the destruction his actions had caused. His apology, it seemed, was too little, too late. Tyrell was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence brought a sense of closure to Sophia's family, but it could not bring back the woman they had lost. For them, the pain of her death would never truly fade. Yet, they found some solace in knowing that Tyrell would spend the rest of his life behind bars, paying for the senseless and tragic murder he had committed. The case became a tragic reminder of how jealousy, insecurity, and emotional instability can spiral out of control, leading to devastating consequences. For those who had known and loved Sophia, the pain would linger long after the courtroom drama had ended. And for Tyrell, the long years ahead in prison would serve as a grim reminder of the life he had taken and the life he had destroyed. This case is a heartbreaking reminder of how jealousy and unresolved emotions can lead to unspeakable acts. Sophia's life, filled with promise, was cut short by someone who couldn't let go of the past. Her story leaves us asking, how do we prevent such tragedies in a world where love and envy often collide? Do you think Tyrell's actions were solely driven by jealousy, or were there deeper issues at play? How can society better address the emotional struggles that lead to such catastrophic outcomes? If this story shocked you, like and subscribe to Real True Crime Stories for more cases that uncover the darkest truths behind love, betrayal, and crime.